I would say if you're a home buyer, somebody or a young person looking to buy a home, you need a bit of a reset.
A reset? What does that mean? If you're a buyer or a seller or just someone who's interested in the real estate market, these are uncertain times. The goal of this video is simple: to help you make sense of inflation, possible recession, and what that means to housing. I am a realtor and not an economist, but I've seen something like this before. I got in business in '05 and survived the crash of '08. What I'm saying is, I've seen what an economic downturn does to real people, and it's not pretty. Here's the facts. Inflation is at 9.1%, a 40-year high. Home prices are the highest ever. Mortgage rates are at a 15-year high, and we've just had a second quarter of negative growth of the gross domestic product. Some call this a recession. Some say, not so fast. The official call comes from the National Bureau of Economic Research, and that can take a while. We can call it whatever we want, but for an awful lot of Americans, they just call it painful. So what is inflation? The definition of inflation is a general increase in prices and a decrease in the purchasing power of money. A little inflation, like 2%, is healthy. That means things are growing, people are prospering. Like I said before, we're currently at 9.1%. That's not healthy. We feel it at the gas station, at the grocery store, at your favorite restaurant, not to mention rent rates. So what's caused our current inflation situation? Normally, when there's a balance in supply and demand, the market is stable and doesn't bounce around too much. There's an economic metaphor called the invisible hand that says, through individual self-interest, freedom of production and consumption, the pressures of supply and demand will cause a natural movement of prices and flow of trade. Think about any super hot Christmas toy over the years. Xbox 360, Beyblades, Furbies, anything from the movie Frozen. Everybody wanted one. When demand was high, supply is low, prices go up. On the other hand, think of the flops. Lawn darts is a great example. Basically, a railroad spike with aerodynamic fins ready to plunge into a person's body who's in the wrong place. If a toy can kill someone, it's going to end up on the bargain table. Clackers is another example. I don't know why I thought of that, but low demand, low prices. In these cases, the invisible hand would be slapping those companies saying, stop making these things. On February 3rd, 2020, COVID was declared a public health emergency. Businesses stopped producing and the supply chain ground to a halt. The government saw that people couldn't or wouldn't work because of COVID, and to keep food on the table and rents being paid, they dropped trillions of dollars into the economy, meaning, of course, people's bank accounts. People essentially went on a shopping spree. Production of goods couldn't keep up because of volume and lack of workers, and shortages ran rampant. Empty shelves led to panicked buyers, hoarding, and higher prices. Remember the toilet paper shortage? Though it's much more complicated than that, in a nutshell, that's how we got here. Demand was high, supply was low, prices went up. That's called demand pull inflation. There's also cost push inflation. A great example was the lumber shortage recently and how that caused new home costs to spike. Lumber did come back to earth. With housing, COVID initially caused sellers to pull their listings off the market, and those that were thinking of selling reconsidered and stayed put. At the same time, interest rates were insanely low and continued to drop. Now, more buyers than ever had money to buy with low rates, and as time dragged on, more people in smaller homes were highly motivated to get a larger home with room for everyone. The lockdown caused some serious cabin fever. All the while, remote working became necessary and soon became acceptable. This provided even more motivation for people to move out of the city into the country and get some breathing room financially and elbow room physically with bigger houses and more land. Remember the super hot Christmas toys and how strong demand drove prices up? The same thing was happening in real estate. With home prices surging, now everyone wanted to get in the rising market, and cash buyers and corporate entities started sucking up a lot of the houses. Regular buyers with regular loans rarely had a chance to win because a cash buyer would pay over list, waive inspections and appraisals, and offer fast closings. That's a tough offer to say no to. In the meantime, inflation was steadily rising for everything else as well. But what seemed to get the public's attention was gas prices. In an overheated economy like the one we're in now, The only tool the government has to cool it off, meaning slow down spending, is to raise interest rates. So in March, the Fed started raising the Fed fund rate and signaled more increases were coming. This makes borrowing money more expensive, like home loans, credit cards, and business loans. So companies dial down expansion, hire fewer employees, consumers buy fewer homes and cars and washing machines, and this is how the Fed pumps the brakes on all that cash that's been flying around. That in turn, hopefully, cools the market a bit. Less demand equals less upward pricing pressure. The risk is job loss, and we're seeing that happen already. The mortgage industry has been positively pummeled. So what happened to real estate recently? Interest rates jumped to 4, 5, and 6%. Buyers leave the market in droves and the buyer pool dries up in comparison to what it was. Now sellers, seeing the possible end of the gravy train, when you could pitch a tent and make $1 million, flood into the market hoping to catch the last breeze of a desperate buyer's wind. The effect on the market has been nothing less than shocking. Here's what Jerome Powell says about what to expect moving forward.
And rates have moved up. We're well aware that mortgage rates have moved up a lot, and you're seeing a changing housing market. We're watching it to see what will happen. How much will it really affect residential investment? Not really sure. How much will it affect housing prices? Not really sure.
Here's what we do know. Sellers are slashing their listing prices dramatically just to get buyers' attention. Well-prepared buyers now have choices, where they can now negotiate for closing costs and other expenses and not be panicked if the seller says no, because they can just say next. What an amazing difference a quarter can make. So what can we look forward to? I think Mr. Powell said it best.
I would say if you're a home buyer, somebody or a young person looking to buy a home, you need a bit of a reset. We need to get back to a place where supply and demand are back together, and where inflation is down low again, and mortgage rates are low again. So this will be a process whereby we do our work in a way where the housing market settles in a new place.
Hopefully we do find ourselves in that place. If you like this video, tell a friend, give it a like to help me spread the word, and subscribe so you'll know when the next one drops. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.